Number one, get distracted by every new software tool and rig. Welcome to this week's Animators Journey podcast episode. I'm your host, Lucas Ridley, and I also teach online at animatorsjourney.com. If you want to become an animator, go check out that website. If you do not want to become an animator, keep listening to this list, because this list that I just started is 10 ways to avoid becoming an animator. So if you want to avoid becoming an animator, wink, wink, this is a tongue-in-cheek list, then keep listening, right? So get distracted by every new software tool and rig. That's number one, okay? So if you don't want to become an animator, just do the shiny object syndrome thing. And every time a new tweet happens or someone posts something on social media or new software pops up, go learn that thing immediately, drop everything you're doing. Don't continue to make progress on a single direction. Try to go in as many directions as possible. And that way you'll never actually achieve your goals as a 3D animator. Number two, learn Substance Painter and ZBrush. They have nothing to do with animation. I get this one a lot where people will say, hey, I want to become a modeler and an animator. I like doing both those things. I'm like, that sounds awesome. That doesn't work that way. Maybe in a small studio, asterisk, blah, blah, blah. But in general, the hundreds of jobs out there, not talking about the little niche small studios, the big studios with hundreds of jobs, they don't really have an animator then go model stuff. It just doesn't really happen and have both of those things go to final in production. So if you don't want to become an animator, again, this is a divide your time situation. Go learn some software that has nothing to do with animation and get distracted by that. Okay, wink, wink. Again, this is sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek. Do the opposite of everything I'm saying if you want to become an animator. Number three, create one bouncing ball and never do it again. So just like all the fundamentals, right? You just need to learn it that one time and then just forget that altogether, because that's just for beginners. And the more you advance, you just need to forget all the beginner stuff and never use that, because that's just for newbies and stuff like that. Again, I feel like with each one of these, I have to wink at the camera or something, or I don't know how to audibly wink on a podcast. So for the people who do want to become an animator, obviously bouncing balls are in everything. I talk more about this in a bunch of other areas, YouTube and other podcasts, but bouncing balls is really important. So if you do want to become an animator, definitely start there and never forget that, and just actually hone that skill, because you'll see that in all the work, all the reference that you do are bouncing balls. Number four, do lip sync animation as early as possible if you want to avoid becoming an animator. Maybe even skip the one bouncing ball and just go straight into lip sync. So this is biting off more than you can chew. This is advancing before you're ready. This is saying, hey, an arbitrary amount of time has passed since I started doing this, so I should just jump into the deep end of the most advanced stuff and spin my wheels doing that, and then show people that I can't do it that well because I'm not ready for that. And then that way I can avoid becoming an animator. Number five, don't get feedback on your animation. So ideally live in a cave somewhere, don't listen to anyone, and don't show your work to anyone. That's how you can avoid becoming an animator. Number six, if someone does give you feedback, maybe if you haven't implemented like the fingers and ears, if someone starts talking to you about your work, then you actually heard what they said, then do not implement what they said. In fact, try to personally attack the person trying to help you. In my case, I've even had someone offer to pay me money to prove, I don't know how they wanted me to do this, but prove that the feedback that they requested from me, which I gave them freely to help them, they then got very defensive and then attacked me personally, and then wanted to pay me money to if I could prove that the notes that I was giving them was accurate. So that's a great way not to become an animator, because you create this contentious relationship and have a bad reputation from the very beginning of meeting someone who's trying to help you. So do that if you don't want to become an animator. And that person was successfully not becoming an animator for quite many years by that point, and it made sense why. Number seven, take advice from anonymous keyboard jockeys on the internet. So, don't take advice from me. I'm not an anonymous person. My name is Lucas Ridley. You can Google me. You can find out my history and who I am. I'm not afraid to give my opinion about things. Obviously, I have a podcast, but don't take my advice. Take someone's advice who's afraid to show their face or name anywhere, and who like to pretend that they have more experience than they do. And just because it gives them a sense of, authority because they're insecure about something, who knows why they're doing this, just making speculations why people go anonymously on keyboard jock. people probably have good reasons. They don't want to be outed from their job or something, or they want to be able to give honest feedback. But this is a tongue-in-cheek thing where obviously people are giving bad advice online all the time. That's like the trope and the cliche of the internet in general. The best way to do that is go to find the anonymous people who you can't track what their experience level is. Number 8, equate learning a software with learning a skill. So in your mind, if you can learn a software like Maya, then equate that with that you now have the skills to get hired as an animator. And that way you can avoid taking any more classes because you just learn the software and then just apply to jobs for like years on end and then think it's like the industry is against you or something. That's a great way to avoid becoming a 3D animator. Obviously, the tongue-in-cheek part of this is that's a terrible idea. If you are wanting to become a 3D animator, animation is a skill that kind of lives outside of a software. It's an agnostic thing to learn because you could learn animation, be a stop motion animator, or you could be a 2D animator if you were drawing. You could be a flipbook animator. You don't need Maya. You don't need a software to be an animator. But if you don't want to become an animator or just avoid it, then just focus on software and don't worry about skills. And that's a great way to avoid becoming an animator. Number 9, focus only on getting degrees and certifications, not your reel. So if you take a class or, a course or something, don't really even pay attention to what they're teaching. Just go through the bare minimum motions to get a piece of paper or be able to update your resume that no one looks at in this industry because all they care about is demo reels. So try to avoid focusing on demo reel because that's only going to get you hired. And what this list is all about is avoiding becoming a 3D animator. So definitely don't focus on your reel. Just worry about degrees that don't matter. Number 10, the last one, do not take any action until your life is absolutely perfect. Wait until you have an infinite amount of free time and money before you do anything. I see this all the time where people want to have all their ducks in a row before they take action, whether it's researching the very best school or the course or the software, or they want to watch 20 more quarter digital videos about who knows what, people reacting to something or something. And then maybe they'll get to a point where they've saved enough money or the circumstances just perfect. And that's what you want to wait for because that will never happen in life. And then that way you'll never become a 3D animator because you'll just always be waiting. So I've been sick. That's why I'm keeping this podcast short because my voice is about to go even just talking this much, even though I'm hopefully getting better, knock on wood. So this has been a tongue-in-cheek podcast episode, top 10 ways to avoid becoming a 3D animator. If you want to become a 3D animator, then do the opposite of everything that I was describing in that list of 10. And check out animatorsjourney.com where you can begin or continue your journey in a simplified, accelerated approach that I've developed a new framework from based on everything I've seen available as a new student to a new student these days. And I think there's some things missing and things are overly segmented currently in the marketplace. And I want to condense the knowledge and give it in the best way possible. And I found doing beginner, intermediate, and advanced is the best way to do it so that it's focused and I'm not stretching the material thin just so that I can charge more or sell more courses and divide things up into body mechanics 1, body mechanics 2, body mechanics 3. How about let's just do the whole thing at one time? So that's what intermediate is. And I'm just actually started all the new students off today on that new course. This is the first cohort going through. So I look forward to posting their work and sharing more about that course and what's inside of it on social media. Me out at Digital Creators School and Animators Journey are the 2 social media handles. But check out LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, I am trying to post as much as possible there. And you can just search Animators Journey and also find little social media snippets of all the past podcast episodes. If you don't have time to go back and listen to all those, I pull the highlights out and then I post them on social media. So hopefully you can check that out. And I wish you the best of luck on your journey to not becoming a 3D animator or also becoming a 3D animator, whatever you decide to choose on your own personal journey. And I hope I'm helping in some small way. Let me know by subscribing to the podcast, or if you're on Spotify, you can even leave a little comment these days now, actually, as a new feature of Spotify podcasts. So I've been Lucas Ridley, your host for Animators Journey podcast episode. Next week, I'll be back with another interview with a industry leading animator, and I look forward to sharing that with you. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.